everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Amy's Bookshelf. A few months ago I did a vlog where I read Sapiens, and I kind of took you along on the journey and updated you on my thoughts as I was reading, and I really enjoyed that, and I think a lot of you did as well, because I had some quite positive feedback. So I have decided to do another vlog, this time of Susan Clarke's Piranesi. Now this book is one that I've seen everywhere. It's been on Bookstagram now for a little while. I'm not quite sure when it was published. Hang on. It was published in 2020, and I believe it won the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2020, I imagine. And yeah, so because obviously it's quite a high accolade and a lot of people have just said it's really great, I am looking forward to reading it, although I am very scared. I think mainly because I want to like it, so if I don't, I'm going to be quite disappointed. I kind of hate the idea of not enjoying something that that is supposed to be really good. I don't often like having unpopular opinions. Like I don't like not enjoying popular books, if that makes sense. I kind of want to be on the hype, on the positive hype from everyone, like, yeah, it was a great book, and hear all my thoughts. So fingers crossed I do like it. Honestly, I would give you the synopsis, but it's so confusing. It's fantasy, which isn't really my bag, but I've heard really good things about it. And also it's not a very long book either, so it's not like really high fantasy where there's loads of world building and you're spending forever trying to understand that. So I'm hoping that it'll be just the right level of fantasy for me. So yeah, I'll take you along on my journey. Today is Sunday the 10th of April, so I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to read, but I have quite a lot of time today to read, so I'm hoping I might be able to read it all today, but if not, I imagine I will finish it sometime this week. So I will take you along and update you along the way, and I hope you enjoy this little reading vlog. Also, side note, I've literally just been filming that and he's just been there watching me. This is our foster cat Draco, for anyone who doesn't follow me on Instagram or hasn't heard me mention him before. He's adorable, but he's so stealthy, he'll just appear and I'm like, when the fuck did you get here? But he is adorable, so I'll forgive him. Hello, I have got to page 61, and to be honest, the main thing I've heard about this book, apart from the fact that people really like it, is that you've just got to persevere, and 100% I think that's all I'm going to have to do, because right now, no clue what's going on, like at all. So this obviously isn't spoilers, so don't worry if you've not read it, but the chapters are broken up by like essentially diary entries, and obviously because we're in this like fantasy world made up of halls, honestly I still don't really have a good idea of what this world looks like, so I'm not going to try and explain it. But the entries are things like the 88th Western Hall, the second entry for the 20th day of the 6th month in the year that the albatross came to the southwestern halls. You know, it's like very wordy and a little bit convoluted, so I'm trying to not read like, well, I'm trying not to remember like every single word, because I feel like that's just going to make it harder for myself. I'm just going to read and hope that it comes together at some point. But right now it's kind of reminding me of This Is How We Lose the Time War, and that's not a good thing, because I really didn't like that book, mainly because I got to the end of it and I was like, no idea what just happened. Couldn't tell you. That's sci-fi, not fantasy, but still obviously world building, and yeah, very much not Earth, which this, I mean, Piranesi's established that he's a man, but I mean the front cover for a start is a oh my god, what are they called? A Mr. Tumnus. What's a Mr. Tumnus? I can't remember. I can't remember. Oh, I can't remember the name of that, but that's what's on the front. So I thought this would be like mythological creatures, but yeah, he's established that he's a man. So honestly, who knows? Maybe I've just got the wrong end of the stick. But the other thing that I thought was quite funny, when I opened this book, there was a receipt in it, and I thought I would just take you on a quick journey of when I bought this book, the other books I bought with it, and whether I've read them yet. So this receipt is from the 13th of May last year, so it's less than a year ago. And that is the day after my birthday, so I think this might have been a birthday shop. So the first one is The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. I have read that. It's an excellent book, would highly recommend. This is from Waterstones, by the way. Second one is Dominicana. I've also read that. I ended up reading that actually as a ebook because I was on holiday and I hadn't brought enough books with me, so read that on there. Then Cat in the City, not read that, or The Cat in the City rather, not read that but really want to. I think it's set in Tokyo and it's cute, it's got a cat on the cover. Then How We Disappeared, not read that. And then finally Piranesi, which I'm reading now. So do you know what, that is not a bad little haul. I've read 3 of them, or reading the 3rd one. But really it just goes to show how reading and buying books are 2 very different hobbies, aren't they? Because I've bought many books since then and not read those either. So here we are. But yeah, like I said, 61 pages in. I am not hating it, but I am just hoping that by the end it will make sense. It's 245 pages, I think, but it's a hardback, so obviously the pages are a little bit longer than if it was a paperback. So yeah, we'll see how I get on with it, but I will continue taking you on this journey and update you with my thoughts. And I'll just let Draco say bye to everybody. Yeah, he's been my little reading buddy. Hello. Okay, so I'm on page 112 and I definitely still don't know what's going on, but I have very, very much made peace with that. I don't really mind actually, so I'm enjoying it, which is good. And obviously I'm nearly halfway through, so yeah, not too much more to piece together. My main thoughts at the moment is that it's a very weird like time setting. So when when you look at this for a start, it kind of gives you like maybe mythology vibes, and it's definitely not that. It's obviously fantasy, but it's not mythology. And also I think probably because of the mythology vibe it gives me, I also and when I first started reading it, I was inclined to think it was set like way back when. And then having read a bit more, or got almost halfway through, it really threw me that there were very modern things mentioned. So there's like crisp packets, biros, multivitamins, and then locations and dates as well. So like 2010 is mentioned, and then Birmingham and university, and like words like dishy, which are obviously quite modern words. So I don't really know what to do with that. It's throwing me, and yeah, it's not helping my understanding of the book generally, to be honest. But it's very interesting, so I'm looking forward to where it's going. Where I want it to go, if I was going to finish writing this book, or if I had to choose how this book was going to end up, I kind of want it to be that Piranesi is either in a coma, or maybe he's perhaps he's got something like Alzheimer's, and so this world is something he's created in his own head. And because of the way that the other characters around him behave, such as the other, it gives me the sense that they know more than he does, kind of like a Truman Show vibe. I don't think it's going to be like the Truman Show, but if, say, Piranesi is actually just a man in, say, like a care home who has Alzheimer's, who's created this whole world that he can escape into, then that would make sense why he is almost hiding in there, or obviously with Alzheimer's he isn't aware that he's done this, he isn't aware that this is a fictional place. However, this is a fantasy book, and as I said at the beginning of this video, I'm not a fantasy reader, and so I think I may be projecting my preference in terms of genre, because I am very much fascinated by the human condition and the way that humans behave, and so that's why I think for me that would be a really good place for this book to go. But because it is a fantasy book, I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is going to be a real fantasy world and it'll have some kind of other explanation. But since I posted about this on my Instagram stories, so many people have been like, this book is great, just persevere with it. It's really confusing for like 90% and then suddenly at the end it all makes sense. So I'm looking forward to that, and fingers crossed I'll be able to finish it this evening. Because yeah, despite the fact I don't know what's going on, I am really enjoying it. So I think that's probably the most important thing. So yeah, follow along for the rest of my journey with Piranesi. I'm carrying on reading as I cook dinner. One thing I forgot to mention in my last little video was that this could end up being very like Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, as in it's a fantasy world that exists within our own, hence why things like Birmingham and Italy are being mentioned. Yeah, don't know if it will be, but I thought I'd just say that in case I'm right later so I can be like, yeah, I guessed it right. Okay, so I have now finished it. I did get through that quite quickly, surprisingly. It's only 245 pages, but actually it's like the parts are broken up in a way that you do get through it quite fast, and also I just kind of wanted to know what the ending was, so that made it more fast paced as well. So I think I'm going to sit with my thoughts for a little bit, and I'm going to film two endings to this. I'm going to do like a spoiler free and a spoilt version of the ending and like just my thoughts, but obviously I'll give you ample warning that I'm about to talk about the spoilers, so if you don't want to see that then obviously you can just skip the last part of the video. But overall I did really enjoy it. I don't think it's like a 5-star read because I think I had areas where I wanted it to be a bit better. But all in all, despite what everybody said about it being kind of like crazy and like unlike anything they've ever read, it actually was quite not predictable, but it made sense by the time I got to the end. Like I said, I'll do two endings to this. I'll do a spoiler free and a spoiled version, and then I can give you a bit more of my thoughts in depth, and hopefully I'll do that in the next couple of days, and then I can get this vlog up. Okay, hello again everyone. So it's now Tuesday the 12th of April, and I'm on my lunch break, so I thought I would film the endings that I spoke about in the last clip and tell you all of my thoughts on Piranesi. I also said at the beginning of the video that it was by Suzanne Clark. It's not, it's Susanna Clark, so apologies about that. So I haven't really read many reviews about this book yet, mostly because I want to make sure that the review I give in this video is my own opinion and I'm not too influenced by other people's thoughts. Not that it really matters if I agree with people and happen to want to give a similar review, but yeah, I just want to kind of do it in my own thoughts as much as possible. So once I have filmed this, I'm then going to properly look up everyone else's reviews and just see, yeah, what the general consensus of this book is. So like I said to you at the beginning of this video, oh, and just a reminder, there will be two parts to this review, a spoiler free and then my spoiled thoughts, but I will give you a lot of warning, so there'll probably be like a last few minutes of the video that you'll just want to skip if you haven't read the book yet. It's a very hard book to talk about, to be honest, without spoiling things, because as I alluded to in the first few clips, the blurb just doesn't really give anything away. It's a very unassuming book because, yeah, there's just nothing to go off when you read the blurb, and I think if this book hadn't had such high accolade and such high acclaim with the prizes that it won and just the general consensus from everyone that had already read it, I feel like it might have struggled to get off the ground a bit, because yeah, if you picked it up in a bookshop and you didn't know anything about it, I'm not sure that blurb would convince you to read it. Yeah, so it's an interesting one from that point of view. So to start off the spoiler free part of the review, The first thing I want to talk about is the cover. Now, obviously, I spoke a little bit about this a few clips back when I was halfway through reading. Mainly this guy here. So I looked up Mr. Tumnus. He's a faun, and that's half human, half goat, which is what I think that creature is. So yeah, if looking at that cover, I think it's misleading, to be perfectly frank. This book obviously is marketed as a fantasy. If you go on Goodreads, the top genre is also fantasy. And as someone who doesn't read a lot of fantasy, I can hand on heart say that if you don't like fantasy, then you still might like this book. It's definitely not one that only people who like fantasy can read. It sort of sits on the cusp of a fantasy book and like teeters between genres. I think it definitely has fantasy elements, but I don't think it's important to be really invested in the fantasy element of the book in order to have an understanding of the book as a whole. And so yeah, that's why I think the cover is very interesting, because I do think it's very misleading. Again, not looked up anything about why this cover was chosen, about what the thoughts behind it were, so I will be wanting to do that to kind of gain a bit more of an understanding. I mean, it's definitely a pretty cover, so... Oh, and also, if you haven't got the hardback copy or if you haven't seen it, not only is it a very pretty cover, it's got very pretty inside pages, and that is obviously lovely as well. Now obviously these pillars, they do allude to the location of where Piranesi is living when we first are introduced to him, so that does make some sense. But yeah, I think this creature here is the part of it that throws me the most. Yeah, and I think maybe I'm a bit hung up on it, but I think that, yeah, like I said, I think it's misleading. So yeah, if you have read this book and you have any thoughts about it, please let me know what you think of the cover, because I don't think I've ever thought a cover is as misleading as this one is, which is very interesting. Okay, so yeah, moving on. Again, not going to spoil anything in this part of the review, so moving on to like my general consensus of the book. The best way I can phrase it is that it's not completely satisfying, in my opinion, but it's not wholly unsatisfying either. I think it's an example of a book where a lot of it is maybe vague and not completely tidied up. And perhaps there are parts of the plot that allows you to come to your own conclusions, which I think some readers will like and some readers won't like. And for me personally, like I said, I think I liked it. However, I think there could have been a whole different book written that would have been longer and would have explained things in more detail and perhaps would have left more readers satisfied. But obviously that's just a creative choice from the author and it's her book, so she can do what she wants with it. But yeah, from my point of view, I think mostly I enjoyed it and I found it satisfying, though it had parts of it where I feel like I wanted more and didn't quite get that. I do think that this book would make a really good film, there, especially where Piranesi lives. Obviously from the blurb, that idea of the house with vestibules and halls and this, yeah, fantasy land that obviously doesn't look like Earth or our everyday Earth. And I do think there are times, especially from someone that doesn't read a lot of fantasy, that those locations are hard to visualize, so I think it would make an incredible film. I think visually it would be really, really cool, and perhaps that would allow readers to become a bit more invested in the location and the storyline and the general plot, because they'd have a much better idea of what's going on basically, because I do think the plot definitely is hard to grasp if you get too bogged down trying to understand the location. And then the final thing I'll say that's spoiler free is that I think this book is a fantastic example of where prize winning books aren't necessarily the ones that all readers love. Now I think this goes for pretty much any type of media. Every year there's always a lot of talk about whether Oscar winning films are actually the most popular ones, and me personally, I have seen a lot of films that have won Oscars and think they're brilliant, but I've also seen a lot of films that, you know, critics say are bad or that don't win Oscars and I think they're brilliant. And I don't think that there's ever need to only focus on books that win prizes or books that have high accolade and acclaim, because you know, if you take something like Marvel or Star Wars, those films, to use films as an example, are incredibly popular, but they're not going to be winning Oscars necessarily. They might win something for like visual effects or sound, but they're probably not going to be winning like best film. But that doesn't mean they're bad films, and it also doesn't mean that they're not popular, because those films are incredibly popular. And it's the same with books. There'll be like a lot of like trashy romance books, for example, that critics might slam and be like, oh, this was so predictable, this was, you know, and have a negative review of it, but that doesn't make it a bad book. So I think this this book perhaps could fall foul to winning the Women's Prize for Fiction, because it has this like air of mystery, this air of pretentiousness to it, and where I think that doesn't sit right with me a little bit is where I hope that no one reads this and thinks that they, because they don't understand it, that means they're a bad reader, or that means that they aren't very clever, or they don't read very good books. Because like, I read a lot of books and I didn't understand a lot of what went on in this, and that's absolutely fine. You only have to understand it as much as you want to, and frankly, if you're not enjoying it, then put it down and pick up something else. So yeah, that's kind of just my little piece on award-winning books, and just a note to say, if you have tried to read this book, or you have read this book and you didn't like it, don't try and look into that in any way to think that that means you're not a good reader, because yeah, I think there were elements that were perhaps pretentious for the point of being pretentious rather than actually useful to the book's plot. Okay, so if you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my ramblings about Piranesi. I will now say, from now on, I will be talking about spoilers. So if you haven't read the book, please don't continue. My ramblings beforehand, I obviously can understand why you feel they might be quite vague, especially if you haven't read the book. But honestly, it's a really hard book to talk about without spoiling. So that's why I've been very vague about things. But yeah, from now on, I will be discussing spoilers. So if you are signing off, then thank you for joining me for this reading vlog of Piranesi. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video. And if you want more reading vlogs, then I will try and get some to you soon. If you have any suggestions for books that you want me to do a reading vlog for, then let me know in the comments, and I'll try my best. Cool. Okay, final warning, there will be spoilers. Okay. Welcome to everybody who is still here, who has read Piranesi. Please let me know your thoughts on Piranesi. I feel like this is going to be a really interesting book to discuss, because it's wild. There's a lot that goes on. There's a lot, like I said, I don't understand. But yeah, I'm going to just kind of discuss three things that my takeaways from the book. So my first takeaway is that this book really reminded me of the TV show The OA. If anybody has seen that, I'll put a little poster here for it. So in The OA, there are some people who are kidnapped, and they are essentially trying to, they've all had near-death experiences, and because of that they all have this ability to like connect to a different world, and that's what this really reminded me of, because obviously of the like Dr. Kettley's connection to to this other world. Now, like, full disclosure, I'm not sure I really understand still how that world is accessed, or like why anybody was trying to access that in the first place, and that was actually one of my gripes with the book. I don't think anything's really ever properly explained, specifically to do with why Dr. Kettley kidnapped Piranesi, or Matthew, in the first place and wanted him to go to that world. I'm not really sure I understand that. Obviously there's that whole history with all the other people who ended up there, who died there, who were that guy, I can't remember his name, hang on. God, I am terrible with names. I've literally only just finished this book. Lawrence on Sales. So that was the first guy, wasn't it, who was Kettley's teacher, I think, and he's in prison now because he killed someone. So I don't think there's really enough explanation about why anything was, like, anybody was wanting to access this world in the first place. I may well have missed that, to be honest, because like I said, I don't think I understood probably at least 50% of this book. So if you did kind of read between the lines better than I did, then do let me know if I've just missed it. But yeah, for me, there wasn't enough of a palpable explanation about why anybody wanted to go there, and there didn't seem to be any proper sort of ending for Kettley either. Obviously he died, which kind of, I suppose, the punishment fits the crime in a way, because he was pretty awful, so it felt a little bit justified in a way. But at the same time, I feel like because he was killed off, there wasn't really any proper conversation where he explained Piranesi's capture, or, you know, anything to do with that. So I think I would have liked to seen that a little bit more, because the ending does feel a little bit unfinished. Like I said before, I was satisfied enough, but also I would have liked to see a bit more of Piranesi post him leaving, or Matthew rather, because obviously we don't really see many conversations that he has after that. I would have liked to see whether he eventually comes to realise that he is still Matthew and these awful things happen to him. So I think it would have been nice maybe to have an epilogue that was like 2 years later and where he was and what he was doing, but maybe that's just not what the author wanted to do. I think that would have left me a little bit more satisfied and given me more of a conclusion, but again, because it's like a prize-winning book, I feel like a lot of it is supposed to be your interpretation rather than the author just spoon-feeding you the information. But I mean, I like to be spoon-fed sometimes, I won't lie. So yeah, and yeah, I think that's kind of my main like issues with the book. I definitely liked it. Like I said halfway through this video, I still think I would have preferred the world to have not actually been real, to be like the figment of someone's imagination, somewhere that they were escaping into for whatever reason, whether they had Alzheimer's, whether they were in a coma, etc, etc. So the fact that it turned out to just be somebody, I say just, but to be Kethley had kidnapped someone and that's why he was in that world, I'm not really sure I connected with it as much, because obviously the fantasy then was real and it was actually this real world that could be accessed, that wasn't quite Earth. So for me personally, I think because I'm not a fantasy lover, I would have preferred it to have been grounded more in our world, but I also kind of like it. I think it was creative. It was definitely unlike anything I've ever read, so I will give it that. I don't think I'm ever going to read another book like Piranesi, so you kind of have to congratulate her for that, because it's not often you read a book and you think, wow, this is unlike anything else. Because let's be honest, originality is hard to come by, especially when there are so many books published every day and we obviously read so voraciously as well. So yeah, all in all, I think that's kind of my thoughts on Piranesi, and I'm not sure it's a book that I would read again. I'm not sure it's a book I would recommend anybody, to be perfectly honest. But like I said, I'd like to see a film version of it. So if they ever do that, then I will definitely watch it. And please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm going to do an Instagram post as well, just to chat with everybody about it. Although if in the comments you could, I don't know, put spoiler before your comment or something, because I do understand that for obviously a lot of people that haven't read Piranesi, it's very hard to read reviews and comments about it without being spoiled, because, you know, the whole book is nothing like the blurb. Yeah, so maybe try and preface with something so that people aren't annoyed if they accidentally get spoiled. Yeah, and I think that's everything. So I hope you have enjoyed this video and my little spoiled version of my review. Please subscribe to my channel, please like this, and I will try and do some more reading vlogs because I actually really enjoyed them. I think it's all about picking the right book. I think I do read some books, and while I enjoy them, I don't really have many thoughts, whereas Piranesi was definitely a good example of a book where constantly throughout my brain was whirring, I was thinking of new things, so it was actually a perfect book to do a vlog for. So if I pick up another one soon that I think will be the same, then I will try and film my thoughts and get another reading vlog to you. But yeah, hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye!